life was all about petrol, Caracas would be a great place to live. You can fill your tank for just 10 cents a litre. But for Venezuela's beleaguered middle class, the oil-rich capital is a great place to leave. Their main celebrations are when someone's getting out.
It's my farewell party. I'm moving to the United States next week, and all my family and friends are here to say goodbye.
And these farewell parties are quite common these days?
Quite common, yes. There was 1 week when I went to 3 in 1 week.
In a few days, Moraima Garcia will start a new life with a software company in New York. After a decade of socialist revolution, she and her middle-class friends are voting with their feet. They're fleeing a country where businesses have failed as class warfare booms.
Very rich people, they are making deals with the government, they're making a lot of money. Very poor people are receiving money from the government, but the middle class is suffering like completely, and every day you see more people in your family, in your friends that are being robbed, dead, or that are just, like their houses get robbed, or people who get killed just because they want a motorcycle or something. It's really becoming like, even I always say, like, psychologically, it's very difficult to live in Venezuela right now.
Damos la bienvenida al comandante presidente Hugo Chavez.
The middle class might hate him, but millions of poor Venezuelans see Hugo Chavez as a saint, taking money from the rich and giving it to them. The former army colonel rarely speaks to Western media, but the day we caught up with him, he was glad-handing like a politician on the campaign trail. In February, he won a referendum to abolish term limits, meaning he can keep running for president until he dies.
Hola, ABC de Australia. ¿Cómo están ustedes? Bienvenidos. Bienvenido a la naturaleza. Calvario. Hola. Oye, ¿qué cámara esta es la tuya, Australia? Sí, la cámara. Es un abuso acá.
No sorprendido por el resultado del referéndum.
Gracias. No nos sorprende la victoria. Estamos aquí para la victoria.
Everywhere he goes, an army of red-shirted supporters follows. They're called Chavistas, meaning little Chavezes. Some left-wing priests insist Jesus is with the president too.
Yo quiero que toques a ese Cristo porque te vamos a consagrar al Señor. Vamos a extender las manos, nuestras manos hacia el señor presidente.
The Mass marked the 20th anniversary of anti-government riots. Before Hugo Chavez, Venezuela's rich white leaders all but ignored the poor. Chavez, like most Venezuelans, is of mixed indigenous descent, and he's made it his mission to punish the old elite.
En la sociedad capitalista, ¿qué es lo que reina? La desigualdad. La desigualdad más irracional, salvaje. Y por tanto la injusticia, y por tanto la violencia social, la explotación del hombre por el hombre, como decía Carlos Marx. El reino de Dios aquí en la tierra es el socialismo. Amén.
Caracas today feels a bit like Latin America in the 1970s, when socialism seemed the way of the future. But Chavez has enjoyed something that failed left-wing movements of the past never had: oil. He's nationalised the oil industry and ploughed its billions into his revolution, building health clinics, subsidised food markets and universities for the poor. Even his critics concede he's a formidable and charismatic politician. MOISES NAIM is a former Venezuelan trade minister who now edits the prestigious Foreign Policy magazine in Washington.
Venezuela, like many developing countries, is a deeply polarized, unequal, unjust country. And he has been very effective in using that inequality, the injustices, and the history of failure to really command great support and popularity.
Along the way, he became a hero to Latin America, showering his neighbours with aid and leading an anti-US bloc with Cuba. At the United Nations, he branded George Bush the Antichrist. Meanwhile, Chavistas hailed their leader as the new Messiah. Now, the irony, of course, is that the success of Chavez's socialism has always depended on healthy global capitalism. As long as the world was buying Venezuela's oil at record prices, he could fund his social programs even as the private sector crumbled. But now global capitalism is in crisis and the price of oil has plummeted, it's shaken the very foundations of the Chavez revolution. In July last year, Venezuela could sell its oil for nearly $140 a barrel. Now it's getting less than half that. That's not just serious, it's potentially disastrous, because Venezuela depends on oil for 95% of its export income.
The truth is that the high oil prices have allowed the President Chavez to mask the fact that he has destroyed the economy. Today, Venezuela's economy is essentially, deeply dependent on oil. That was always the case, but under President Chavez, that has been taken to an extreme. The amount of job destruction that has taken place in Venezuela in the private sector is unprecedented.
Almost every company he's nationalised and stacked with Chavistas has turned into a loss maker. The workers' jobs now have to be subsidised by the state. Maria Rea is paid to make clothes for government workers, like red vests for Chavista rallies.
Yo como nivel yo me siento bien, porque te digo sinceramente, tengo mis hijos, gracias a Dios los tengo estudiando, donde ya son universitarios, y prácticamente si no fuera por este presidente a lo mejor no hubiese pisado una universidad. Esto es lo máximo. Sí, señor, como presidente es lo máximo. En todos los sentidos es un hombre que se ha preocupado por su pueblo.
What's left of the private sector isn't creating jobs, it's fighting for survival. So this is the original house?
Yes, actually, this is the house where the hacienda was founded in 1796.
Alberto Volmer is one of the last big entrepreneurs left in the country. His family-owned rum distillery has lasted 2 centuries, so he's determined to make it outlast Chavez.
We're always talking about the 200 years, and we're thinking about how do you keep this going for at least another 200 years. You know, the few companies that were producing in Venezuela have either gone to Colombia or Costa Rica, or they've just been closed down and they're being imported from other countries. You know, I just sometimes wish that Chavez were to realize how important it is to have companies and to have private sector in Venezuela, and it adds so much value to the country. You know, one just feels has this feeling of wasting time.
Despite the oil crisis, Chavez remains as hostile to business as ever, especially ones like this. Volmer's estate, or hacienda, epitomises what the president hates. An old business on old land run by an old European family. It's part of what he's called the rancid oligarchy. Ever since the Spaniards came, a small number of rich, white families has owned most of the best land. And that, as much as anything, has caused centuries of conflict across Latin America. But here, at this hacienda outside Caracas, something extraordinary has happened. It's shown that in this deeply polarised society, at the height of this sometimes bizarre revolution, there can be a middle way. Inside Volmer's property is a town for impoverished squatters, with proper streets and houses, even childcare. It's a rare example of the private sector and government working together. The irony is that it started as an attack on his business. In 2000, the local governor organised a Zimbabwean-style land grab on the farm. Instead of resisting, Volmer decided to try to work with them.
Actually, the key was putting long-term as the common interest for both parties, for the land grabbers and for us. And then thanks to putting that as the key to success, we were able to come out with a, let's say, a solution that was okay for both.
Cuídese mucho, pana. Ok, muchos saludos a la familia. Chao.
Volmer agreed to grant the land on condition the government gave the squatters proper materials to build their own homes. Officials had planned to simply have a shanty town. The result is a new suburb and a proud community in what was once farmland. And Volmer's social program didn't end here. When gang members from the neighbouring slum broke into the hacienda, he gave them a simple choice.
One was, we hand you over to the police, with what that means in Venezuela. You know, it could mean you'll get shot or disappeared. And the other option was you work for 3 months with no pay, and that way you'll be paying for what you did.
The program was so successful it's turned into Venezuela's only crime prevention program. More than 100 gang members have taken up the offer to be trained here, provided they turn their backs on crime. Ustari Wilmer has been with the program for 7 years and now works for its private coffee company called Autocrat. If not for the program, he believes he and the other gangsters would be dead.
Yo digo que porque son problemas que a veces uno se encuentra en un círculo, en una barriada donde uno se encuentra como que dicen en un túnel, en un callejón sin salida, en un mundo de oscuridad, y entonces a veces uno se siente que uno tiene que buscar salir porque uno, te digo, en estos problemas delictivos que uno tiene en la calle, son visiones a corto plazo.
For Alberto Volmer, it's been a combination of philanthropy and good business.
Yeah, it is a big risk. But, you know, I was thinking it's a bigger risk to have them working against you in the community or attacking you.
Hugo Chavez praised the program, but he's done nothing to emulate it. For all the recent oil wealth, Caracas is on the edge of breakdown. Poverty is still rife, the infrastructure's crumbling, and crime is out of control. Since Chavez came to power, the murder rate has doubled to more than 100 a week, higher than even Baghdad. But true believers still insist life is getting better.
No, el crimen, o sea, digamos, en la medida que nosotros avanzamos, la lucha contra la pobreza, en ese sentido, se reduce la situación de la criminalidad.
Hector Sanchez is a committed supporter of Chavez's self-styled Bolivarian revolution, named after the colonial liberator Simón Bolívar. He hopes Chavez will liberate the entire continent.
La historia de Venezuela es muy particular en el continente americano. En ese sentido, nosotros sí tenemos una conciencia global, mundial, con respecto a la situación del planeta.
para proteger los intereses de los verdaderos invasores, que son
At the height
los
of the oil
terratenientes, que
boom,
sí son los
Chavez
invasores.
outspent the US on aid to his neighbors.
Y comenzó la historia petrolera de Venezuela, y Venezuela fue...
But he's not just lost the oil bonanza, he's lost the president who united his anti-US campaign.
No hubiese sido posible.
The election of President Barack Obama created a great problem for the likes of Mahmoud Ahmadinejad in Iran and Hugo Chavez in Venezuela. Again, President Bush was a very easy target and a very convenient target because of the lack of sympathy that he elicited around the world. With President Obama, Chavez has a different problem. It's not so easy to deride, insult, and accuse President Obama of all sorts of things.
Even worse, he's had to worry about new enemies at home. In November, the opposition won control of Caracas in municipal elections. The new mayor, Antonio Ledesma, is a scion of the old elite who Chavez despises. It's become a test of how the president can work with his opponents. But instead of helping the new mayor improve Caracas, he's trying to stop him working.
Yo todos los días, antes de poner un pie en la calle, rezo, respiro profundo, renuevo el aire de mis pulmones y salgo a batallar no solamente contra los problemas de la inseguridad, de la basura, del tráfico, de la falta de mantenimiento de la infraestructura de la ciudad, sino que el gran enemigo que tenemos por delante es un gobierno que hace todo lo posible para sabotear nuestra gestión.
Ledesma can't even go near his office in City Hall. He and his staff had to relocate to this cramped building across town after the Chavistas who lost refused to leave.
Primero, hicieron destrozos en la fachada, un edificio que data del siglo XIX, que es patrimonio de la ciudad de Caracas. Luego hubo dos asaltos, más de 30 hombres armados con fusiles, con pistolas, con metralletas, encapuchados, escondiendo su rostro, se alzaron con las instalaciones donde debo yo despachar como alcalde metropolitano de Caracas.
City Hall is in the old colonial centre that used to be one of Caracas's main tourist attractions. Now it's not the sort of place you want to visit with a camera. Our bodyguards were visibly nervous as we approached. Well, as you can see, there's still graffiti on the building, which they've tried to paint over, smash windows, and allegedly there are still a lot of armed people inside there protesting about having been sacked from the council by the new mayor, who alleges that they were simply hired muscle for the old mayor, for the pro-Chavez mayor. Quite a few Chavistas around here who've been taking a big interest in us. We can't get around the side? No. Why? Too dangerous? Muy peligroso? Okay. The mayor hasn't just lost City Hall. Chavez has stripped him and other opposition leaders of almost all their power and resources.
4, 3, 2, 1.
When the city of Caracas was run by Chavistas, it also ran the local TV station. The day after Ledesma was elected mayor, the station was transferred to federal control. The young Chavista Héctor Sánchez is the manager and ensures it continues to push the Chavez line.
La revolución para mí significa amor, significa avanzar por la igualdad y por la justicia social, no solamente para Venezuela, sino para América Latina y para el mundo.
But not everyone here is a happy revolutionary. While we were filming, staff confided to us they hadn't been paid in 4 months.
Pero eso es una pregunta como muy interna, propia nuestra, que no está, digamos, no sé ni cómo ustedes llegan a saber de esto.
The coming months will reveal the full effects of the slump in oil prices. Chavez claims to have enough reserves to weather the crisis, but he's already had to slash his budget. If he can't continue the programs that won him support, he'll face more challenges to his power and his commitment to democracy. Even so, no one's predicting the end of Chavez anytime soon.
So President Chavez can last for a long time, again, because he either has the oil money and that allows him to buy political support and popular support, and if the oil revenues dwindle, then he can resort to the use of powers because he has unrestrained ability. He has the control of the army, he has the control of the economy, he's nationalizing the large swaths of the economy, he has the control of Congress, the Supreme Court. All of the power centers of the country are under his direct and immediate control. So he can, using that, he can stay in power for a long time.
He sees Venezuela as the guys who are with me and the guys who aren't with me. And the ones who are against me must leave the country, kind of thing. That's more or less the attitude. Instead of saying, you're always going to have people that agree or disagree with you. And he just can't put up with disagreement. He should actually see the people that disagree with him as potential allies.
Ironically, Moiraima Garcia might once have become a Chavista. She grew up in a Caracas slum, known here as a barrio, but got out through study and hard work.
He just gives them some money to survive now and stay the same way and keep voting for him. He doesn't tell them like, you have to work hard, you have to study hard, you can't get out of the barrios. He tells them, no, it's okay to be in the barrios, you can stay there, I'm gonna give you money, I'm gonna help you paint the front of your house in the barrios so you feel happy. And stay there and keep voting for me. That's what he does. So that's not good for the country as a society, that we have a lot of people depending on the government.
Just as unbridled greed has undermined capitalism, Chavez's autocratic socialism is jeopardizing the benefits of his revolution. As Alberto Volmer showed, the best chance for this divided country may be for its people to work together. But as with everything in Venezuela, that will depend on the whim of just one unpredictable man.